Good evening. Well, we'll move away from Eskom. We'll have more updates for you as we go through the rest of the pulse and into tonight. But let's update you now on what's been the big political news over the weekend. The election of the Gauteng ANC's new chairperson, Panyaza Lesufi, after a tightly fought battle. It's a result which has implications for Gauteng, for what could happen in Gauteng in 2024, and for the ANC's national dynamic ahead of its December conference. Panyaza Lesufi is the newly elected chair of the ANC in Gauteng. He's also the education MEC in that province, and he joins me now. MEC, good evening. Congratulations. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. Are you well?
I'm good, thank you. It was incredibly close. 575 votes for you, 543 for Lebogang Mahile. Did you think it would get that close?
No one has won. No one has lost. The ANC has won.
The ANC has won because you won.
No one has lost. No one has won. The ANC has won.
What do you mean by that?
It means we have to put all our votes and all our members together in one basket and move on and ensure that we've got an ANC that all of us can be proud of.
You said today there was a briefing. You had a briefing, you and the people elected with you. Just to be clear, not everyone was on your slate, which is probably also alludes to what you say. Yeah. The organizational report was quoted as showing that the ANC in Gauteng was working well. After such a close election, after a conference that had so many delays, you have to reconvene in 2 weeks' time after the Ekurhuleni conference that David Makhura described as a war zone. Can you really say the ANC in Gauteng is working well?
It's working exceptionally well. We had our PEC since election in 2018. We finished our term. We've elected the top 5, unfortunately, due to matters beyond our control of weather, fatigue, and related logistical glitches. We had to adjourn a conference, and we are completing the latter part of conference early next week.
Do you believe you'll be able to come to proper conclusions around policy? Because we've seen so many ANC conferences this year where the only thing that happens is exactly what happened over the weekend, a leadership battle, nothing on policy.
I'm glad you're taking that stance, because that's what worries me. That the African National Congress need to reposition itself in terms of policy resolutions and the policies that we want to take to the National Policy Conference. The cost of living is too high. South Africans are even scared of their own shadows because of crime. We have a high number of unemployment. We have to respond to key issues of service delivery. It can't be normal that the clinics runs of medication and we want to say it's normal. It can't be normal that we have sewer flowing freely in our communities and we want to accept that's normal. So if we can't respond to those issues, South Africans will leave us and move on their own without the ANC. We don't have a permanent stature to be the only political party. There are choices out there. We have to clean ourselves and present ourselves as a political party that people can choose. And you can't do that when we're fragmented the way we are. We are inward focused. There's no clarity on any other issue, because every leader that speaks, they speak what they think is right, even outside the policy guidelines. So we have to bring stability, discipline, and have clear policy direction that everyone must embrace. There must be no selective choice of the policy of the ANC that you believe you can promote and another policy you can't promote. So it's hard work, but we're going to a policy conference. We'll refresh the leadership in December. Come January, we'll start to prepare for everything that will make the ANC a better choice for South Africans.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about all of that in terms of stability. Firstly, and you know, every journalist is going to ask you this question, as the newly elected leader of Gauteng, do you support Cyril Ramaphosa for a second term as national leader of the ANC?
It must be a decision of the PC, not a decision of an individual. Let's give us time. We're concluding conference next week. We'll take that. We have to. We have no choice. We have to nominate as well. So there will be a position that will take us the ANC.
You're not going to be like the Gauteng ANC was in 2012, the only province that went against the elected leader.
I'm saying let it be a political decision of the collective. If we are going to confine it to individual, it defeats what I stand for. I really believe we wasted time on some individual choices, individual pronouncement, individual positions. So if we can't have an organization that is have a collective position, we are destroying the organization, because there's a lot of ill discipline. You know, Stephen, you have an NEC meeting that is still on, and the NEC is the highest decision-making body. In the same NEC, you've got leaks that are going all over while they're still in a meeting. When they conclude that meeting, have a press conference, before the ink dries on that press conference, another leader contradicts what is in the state. So we need to have that thing come to an end. That's why I say there's some dead wood that they need to give way. We can't continue to behave in that fashion.
We had Derek Honeycomb and Tony Yengeni calling each other morons this morning on Twitter.
Can you see? If a party lacks that kind of discipline, where leaders can publicly exchange such words, is an indication that indeed the renewal agenda needs to be accelerated.
There was a time in the history of the Gauteng ANC, a long time ago, before me, it may have been before you, I'm not sure, but it was in 2000 when the ANC in Gauteng was in chaos. David Makhura was one of the people who became the provincial secretary in 2001. And to my mind, he was provincial secretary for 13 years, I think it was, then he became leader.
Yeah.
Are you going to miss him in Gauteng?
Definitely. I marvel at our chairperson, David Makhura. He has everything that you need out of a leader. Intellectual capability, strong leadership credentials, hard stance on corruption, order and discipline within the movement, and also the way he pushes policy in terms of government. I will miss him, and I'm one of those people that I really feel they should continue as a premier and conclude his term, because we need that person of that stature and capability. He is highly, highly talented, highly skilled, a committed individual to the cause of our people. So I will miss him. Actually, whatever that I do now, I even consult him, because I really believe that he's not going to do something that will make us to do wrong things.
Sounds like you'd be a good Secretary General for the National ANC. He
would be a good secretary.
You'd be a good Secretary General for the ANC?
Me? Who? Me?
No.
David
Makhura.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I believe in collective decision. Let it be a collective decision. It must not be how Panyaza feel or Panyaza want. I think it will be wrong. I really believe that within that national leadership, obviously, we have to carry his name and defend his name.
Okay, he would be, the race for Deputy President of the ANC is wide open. The race for Secretary General, there are one or two names in the frame. He suddenly is leaving provincial government. I have my stupid moments, but I think I can predict what's going to happen.
We are going to renew ourselves. So let's hope that that renewal will include our former chairperson, David Makhura.
Okay, you've given us the clip we need for our bulletin. Thank you. I would presume that your priority right now is to make sure that you create a situation where the ANC can remain above 50% in the elections in 2 years' time, in the provincial election. Last year, in the local election, the ANC, you won only 36% of the vote in the local elections. I realize there are differences between local and national and provincial, but this is still 36%. It seems to me, Professor Stephen Friedman put it so well yesterday. He said you'd have to perform a miracle to stay above 50% in Gauteng. Is that your assessment?
Who got beyond 36?
Well, no, I've heard you on this. That's fine. But if you stay at 36 and the EFF does not grow, it is politically and mathematically possible for opposition leaders to form a coalition without you and without the EFF, which I would never have thought possible.
Stephen, before the 2016 local government, where were we and how did we go to the 2018 national elections?
The 2019 elections. You were on 52%. You then
where were
fell
we
to just above 50.
Where were we with local government elections? We're hovering around that figure. So it's possible. It's possible. But it reaffirms what I'm saying. If we can't get the ANC right, we're not going to get government right, we're not going to get support from the electorate. Because electorate judge us on how we perform in government. And the reality is that ANC problems find themselves in government. And if they find themselves in government, what happens? Lack of service delivery, squabbles, stage 6, electricity, Zondo report, and many other things. Because the problems of the ANC. So if we can get the ANC right, of which I'm very hopeful we will, we'll then be in a position to resolve all the challenges that we have. We have to focus on making an ANC an agile political party that can take decisions quickly, that has intellectual stamina to debate and defend its policies. Because what we have now, check all the organizations that are growing outside the ANC. They are race-based organizations. It's a Patriotic Alliance. It's recruiting colors. It's Freedom Front. It's recruiting Afrikaners. It's AfriForum. It's DA. Anyone who's black intellectual, remove.
But that's not the case for Action SA, and they're a big threat to you in Gauteng.
Well, Election SA, the less said about them, the better, because they're just a combination of nothing.
The less said about the one political party that's taking votes from the ANC and from the Democratic Alliance, the better. That's your response to them.
Let me indicate, yes, and I stand by that. I stand by that. Who are the leaders of Action SA? It's former who? Former DA members. Why did they leave DA to go to Action SA? Must ask yourself.
It was because it was this long-time plan. We know that.
I'm saying that they are recruiting people that are only anti-ANC. And that's the party that wants to position itself to the ANC. You check the same statistics that you gave us. I mean, they're coming from a lower base. That is why we have the figures that we have. They didn't contest anything. This is the first contest. How do you judge them? And how do you say they're a bigger party? On the basis of what? Of local government elections?
I'm not saying they're a bigger party. I'm saying they could be a threat to you in conjunction with other parties.
On the basis of what? Because they contested one election in only 3 metros.
But your response seems to be that only the ANC matters. I don't know if the electorate in Gauteng sees it like that.
Not necessarily that the only... actually, I fear that South Africans can move and leave us behind while they're still squabbling. They will not wait for us to solve our problems. That's the part that we need to. But you need to ensure that the African National Congress renew itself, defend itself, and indeed represent our people.
You're now the leader of the ANC in Gauteng, so you're not the Premier, and I accept that. I don't disagree with anything you say about David Makhura in terms of wanting him to stay on, in your view. For many people, that really means, though, your new position means 2 things. You have influence over hospitals and schools. We know your views on education. You and I have spoken about education many times. But in terms of hospitals, we all know the state of Gauteng health. We know the state of hospitals. We understand the structural problems, the patient load. People come from other provinces, other countries for treatment. You don't get paid. We understand all of those things. But there's also issues around management. Take the Rahima Musa mother-to-child hospital, mother and child hospital. A doctor tells us that babies are dying because it's cold, and the CEO's response is to discipline them. Is that right?
I don't know. Let me start with what you said. You understand people are migrating to Gauteng, infrastructure. You understand that. No, you don't. People are not coming to Gauteng for the first time this year. They've been coming here. We must not tolerate bad things and have excuses. You can't tolerate a hospital without medication. You can't tolerate a hospital where children are dying. We can't tolerate mismanagement of our hospitals and our facilities. We can't. And we can't say we understand. It must be stopped. And those that are responsible, we must act on them decisively without mercy. This is what cost us. Where hospitals are running without medication and we say it's normal. Schools don't have toilets, we say it's normal. Public institution, tell me a public institution in this country, either as a sport field, a community hall, and will have a functional bathroom. Tell me a public institution in this particular country that will not have vandalism and we should accept it's a way of life. That's what I reject. It's not a way of life. We need to act and act decisively on those things. We deserve better. We can't just have potholes and you say it's normal, it's part of our lives. We can't just have grass in graveyards and you say it's normal. You can't still have bucket system and say it's normal. It can't be, Stephen. And we can't say we understand. We must crush that tendency and we must crush that behavior.
So, I mean, the ANC has been in charge of Gauteng since 1994. What's going to change in the next 2 years? You created the situation, is my point. How are you going to solve it?
Because of our differences in the political party. That is why if we fix the political party, not everything, but majority of our problems will be resolved. I feel so. I'm convinced we need to. And it's not difficult, Steve. It's 3 things. The first one is fairness. Let us be fair on anything. If you recruit people, recruit fairly. If you award contracts, award them fairly. People don't demand any other. So it's fairness. 2, it's transparency. Ensure that everything we do, people can understand why we arrived at that decision. People must not guess us to say it's because of this and that, because we are very silent in dealing with this. But thirdly, it's firmness on ill discipline. So we need to strengthen all those things. Then we'll be in a position to ensure that we've got government that is functional.
You've got 2 years to do all of this, is my point. I don't know if it's possible. And I hate to put it like this, but this is where we are. And I realize that often, someone who wins an election like yourself gets a pretty easy interview. But I think the position of the ANC, we all see it after the Zondo Commission. I think, for example, the Zondo Commission is probably going to hurt you in Gauteng more in other provinces. That's unfair, but that's just life. I don't know if it's possible for you to turn the ship around in such a, to even, begin to change the position of the ship.
Was it possible for Nelson Mandela to come out of jail?
It was complete, that required the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Was it possible for ANC to come into power in 1994?
Also required the fall of the Berlin Wall. Things that happened outside the control of the ANC is my point.
And how many people have written the obituary of the ANC before?
You don't think it's getting closer?
I must not add your name in that list, Stephen. That's what I will ask you.
Panyaza Lesufi, you and I have known each other a long time. In all of that time, you've been consistent about one thing. Morocco Swallows.
Thanks you.
Valen Kirtley is our sports editor. She's standing over there. She has a question for you. You may not be able to hear her from here, but she's going to ask the question now. Valen.
I think that he actually developed those nerves of steel to conquer ANC in the province because of what happened at Swallows and how they managed to pull off survival and stay in the DSTV premiership. Would you say that's a fair thing to say?
Let me say, those last 3 weeks were 3 weeks of hell. My nerves and other things couldn't take that. But we will stay. The team, I'll come here wearing a maroon and white tie to respond to you appropriately. I don't want to confuse the two roles. It will create problems for me.
Panyaza Lesufi, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Good to see you after the pandemic. Thank you for taking the questions. There'll be more to come. The MEC for Education in Gauteng, speaking, of course, in this conversation as the newly elected leader of the ANC in Gauteng.